being here today. My name is Candace Newman. I am the CEO and founder of Live Out Live. Live Out Live is inspired by my career and journey as a woman in the music entertainment industry, specifically a Black woman in the live music industry. I was in the touring business in corporate America for about 12 years, working for Live Nation, and now I work independently, building my platform to create more access and resources and opportunity to expand diversity in the live music industry. Being an only woman in the industry, being a woman in that industry specifically is tough, but being a woman of color is even more marginalizing. So I am really trying to open up doors for more women of color in the live music space, more people of non-binary background, more people in LGBTQIA background, and beyond. Just really opening up the doors in the live music industry and expanding the resources to more diverse faces in general. So the reason why we are here today is because we partner with the Grammy Museum every year to create live music programming and again, education and knowledge, because that's where it starts, right? So today's panel session is on sound, lighting, and production, and we brought some specialists, some experts within that space from the live music industry to come and share their background, their journey, or their best practices. Today's panel is going to be moderated by Noelle. Noelle is a spectacular woman in the lighting music industry, the lighting industry within live music and beyond, just a great businesswoman. And so she can share more about herself and then commence with the introductions. Thanks so much for the panelists and for our moderator for being here. And I'll let you guys take it away. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Candace. I am so great to be on this panel, rather moderating this panel with you all. Again, like she said, my name is Noelle Jordan. On Instagram and on social media, Noelle Soraya. I am a concert and touring lighting designer. I've worked in production management as well as stage managing, and I'm also a backline technician. Currently, I am on the road. I am on tour with Moonchild, as well as being out with PJ Morton as well. I am so looking forward to this panel, and let's get into it. So on our panel today, we have Ms. Michelle Bettinato, a concert audio engineer, Nicole Carson, event and venue management professional, Ms. Sydney Ramos, production manager for Live Nation, and Justin Witherspoon, a tour manager extraordinaire. I would like to have you all elaborate more on what you do. I don't want to hold anything back or miss anything. So Michelle, if you would just explain a little more.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm a professional concert sound engineer. I've been touring with major label artists as their sound engineer since 1992, so for about 30 years now. And what I do is I mix the sound that the audience hears coming from the PA at a concert. So I'm in charge of everything from designing the sound system we're going to carry on a tour to implementing it, and then making sure that the way the artist wants to be represented in audio is what the audience hears when they come to the show. So I'm kind of like the link between the artist and the audience to get their music across. And I also, in 2013, I co-founded soundgirls.org to help bring more women in industry and create a supportive network environment for them. And I also, in 2019, I launched mixingmusiclive.com, which is a online course that teaches live sound and mixing.
Yes, thank you very much, Michelle. Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole. Currently, I'm the manager of front of house festival operations for Insomniac events. So with my role, I basically am directly in line with the producer of the festival. So I help just advance anything that's front of house facing, meaning anything that the headliners or the guests see. So it could be anything from, flowing into the venue, the experience of the guests, parking, security, medical teams, our box office team. So anything that's front facing. And I've been with Insomniac for just about a month now, so fairly new role, and I love it. I love big events. Prior to that, I was actually doing touring. So I was an event producer in the touring sector. I've done production management. I've worked in stadiums. So basically anything live, I live for it. So I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Awesome. We're happy to have you. Sydney?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sydney. I am a production manager for Live Nation. I'm fairly new officially in this role since February, but I've been with Live Nation since 2020, I want to say. Yeah, my role specifically, I handle pre-production, logistics of production, and sometimes it does trickle into posts when it gets down to budgeting. And yeah, I love it. I've done a lot with artists. We do a lot of commercial. My team's a bit smaller. We're in sponsorship and media. So we do a lot of like rolling in, same day, rolling out, as opposed to just like full on concerts and touring. But yeah, it's fun and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Justin, our last but not least.
My name is Justin Weatherspoon. I'm a tour manager, tour director. I've taken on production manager roles. I call myself the firefighter. And in this role, you see yourself putting together tours, logistics, routing, and things like that. But the main part of it, I think, once you get on the road, is you're a firefighter. You take these small fires that can arise while you're on the road and put them out. So you're also the I like to say babysitter, because you have so many personalities that you have on the road with you, and just keeping it all together.
I like that firefighter. And yes, babysitter or a tour mom or dad. I skipped over one small, not small, but little fact. I'm also the creator of the What's Up Roadie, How You Doing podcast. You can find it right now. We're on YouTube and our Instagram page, but we focus on live entertainment professionals and our mental well-being. And so I feel like this panel that we're on today is just amazing. And I really commend everyone at Live Out Live for creating this space for us. So let's get right on into it. Welcome again, all our students and guests and visitors and viewers and those that will really take away from what we're doing and what we've created within this space for you. So for each of my panelists, please share, how did you guys get into the industry? I will start with Sydney.
Alrighty. So I was 18 years old when I first started. My aunt, she's a creative producer, and I was fresh out of high school. She's like, "Hey, you want to make some money?" And I'm like, "Of course. I'm getting into college. Like, of course, who's gonna say no?" So I did my first freelance, just kind of shadowing her at 18 years old, and I really, really liked it. And then fast forwarding to my senior year of college, I was in a shared Uber with Josephine, who she's left Live Nation, but she was head of merch at Live Nation. And it was probably like a 5-minute ride. And she's like, "Oh, what are you in school for?" And I told her, and she's like, "Oh, connect with me on LinkedIn." And I promise I had like 10 followers on LinkedIn. Like I didn't even use it. I only had it because it was a requirement. And within my program at school, we had to pretty much have an internship before, as a credit before we graduated. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had like 3 jobs. Like I'm like, I don't have time for this. And then one day I was just like, okay, let me just reach out to something I actually, wanted to do. And from there, she looked at my resume. She's like, wow, you have a lot of experience, because I've done all these live events since I was 18. And from there, it was just rolling. I started interning at Live Nation. Then COVID happened. And so, everything, as you know, everything shut down. Fast forwarding, we kind of hopped on the live stream event stuff. And September, I was just like freelancing, doing all this PA stuff. But I had so much, I always say, you put the time in, you put in the work, you're going to get the job. And that's pretty much what happened. I went from intern PA and then straight to manager in like 2 years. So that's my experience.
Awesome. I love that. Would you like to make some extra money? That's how I can also on certain sides. Do you want to make some extra money? Of course. Nicole, how has your journey been?
Sure. Yeah, who doesn't love extra money, you know? So for me, it actually started when I was young. So I'm a musician as well. So for me, it started more on the artist side. So I had been performing since like first grade. I was in choir, and then I actually went into opera school when I was in high school. So I was always like in a musical family, especially with my dad. You know, his family is all musicians. And then I would always go to shows. Like I was at festivals all the time in school. My parents would drop me off at a festival and say, all right, see you later, you know, I'll come pick you up in like 8 hours, you know, and I just loved being around the sound, the lights, just the energy of live events. Like I knew it was just something I loved dearly, and it was like really close to my heart. So then when I moved to LA in 2005, I was on a music scholarship. I still sing now. And I just started working in venues. I worked for like these indie labels, and I just kind of immersed myself in the venue experiences around LA and Hollywood, and as an artist, and on the other side as, you know, doing production and as a PA. And I just started to, on my career journey, just get different roles. I stage managed as well. And, you know, I was a production manager, and then I had an opportunity to open a venue here. It was Bank of California Stadium. So I opened that venue and I did events, and it just kind of like took me like on this path of, whoop, all right, here we go. And it was really quick, and it's been a really fun, wild ride. But I just knew as a kid, I was like, no, I want to do events, live events, big events. That's why I love festivals so much. It's like the bigger, the better. But yeah, for me, it started as a kid. So hasn't died since. Still going. Still going.
We still love it. We still love it.
Yep.
Michelle, as a concert audio engineer, how has your journey been?
Yeah, I started very young as well. I was in high school. I decided I wanted to be a recording engineer. And I grew up in a tiny little town as far away from the music industry as you could possibly get. And I didn't know anyone in the business either. So I decided, well, I'm going to have to go to school and learn how to do this. So I went to a technical school. And while I was in school, I had a course on live sound, which even though I'd gone to tons of concerts, I never even thought that that was an actual job, like a career. So I also love traveling, so it just kind of it made sense for me. It's like, well, if I can get paid to mix music and travel, that's the best of both worlds. So I immediately shifted gears, and once I graduated, I started working at a local sound company, and I basically just took every audio job I could get, anything that was related to audio and concerts. I worked as a stagehand. I worked at different sound companies. I mixed local bands. I worked in the AV department at a big entertainment complex. I worked at different nightclubs, and I just kept working. And like both of you guys, just taking every job and opportunity that came, and also making connections and networking, and just telling everybody I met, I want to go on tour. And eventually, about 4 years after I graduated, I had a friend who I met at school who offered me a tour. He was on tour with a band, and he wanted to get off the road, and knew that I was trying to get on tour. And so I started working with a band, and a month later, their album blew up and was in Billboard's Top 100. And it was a band, Spin Doctors, right when they were about to make it big in the early 90s. And that was the start of my touring career. And from then on, I just, been a front of house engineer, and I've never looked back. And I've loved every minute of it.
That's awesome to be able to be this long in the industry, and to still have that passion and love for it. It's inspiring. And Justin, Mr. J Rock.
So I always had a passion for live music. I'm a drummer, and I come from a very musical family. So just my passion for live music and live entertainment. I always knew, as a teenager, I wanted to do something in that lane. I actually got into the nightclub industry, doing a lot of after parties with a lot of the concerts that were coming in town. And from there, I actually started as a runner at a local venue in Phoenix, Arizona, where I live. And I just kind of started watching what everyone was doing. I didn't have the talent to mix audio. I think you have to have a very special ear for that. So I commend you that those that do audio. But I knew I wanted to do something. So I just watched to see what was going on. And as a runner, I was always running the tour managers and just started asking questions and decided that's what I wanted to do. My start actually came as a VIP meet and greet manager. A mutual friend of my family was going on tour, and he's like, look, I know you want to get in to be a tour manager, but it's not likely for you to just start as a tour manager. So you can do this and let's see what happens. And I got in. I was doing VIP meet and greets for maybe 2 years, maybe not even 2 years. And I was just hustling because I had the goal that I wanted to get to. So through that hustle and meeting people and making connections, I was able to achieve what I was looking to do, which was what I'm doing now, being a tour manager.
Thank you. So hearing everyone's journey, I know Michelle, you mentioned about going to school, and others have been in the industry since they were like 18. What do you all feel is the best way to get into this side of the industry? How do you feel about between traditional schooling and going to a technical school or going to a university and being in a technical theater program or audio program? How do you feel as far as like what would your advice be for our next generation when it comes to getting into this industry, especially in this new space that we are in since COVID? The process that I've seen from my end, it can be a little different. So what do you all feel is the best way to get into this side of the industry? Michelle?
I think it depends on the actual the goal. If you want to be a technician, like if you want to work in audio, lighting, or video, at this point, I mean, we're kind of at an unprecedented time where there is probably the highest need for technicians that there has ever been in modern touring. With the pandemic, a lot of people have left the business, opening up a lot of positions. So the thing is, the equipment and the technology has improved and changed so fast that you really need to have some kind of technical background. Years ago, you could just kind of play with a homemade PA system and figure it out. But now there's so much software and networking and technology involved that you need to have, at least the basics under your belt. But if you were to go to one of the schools, and there are, plenty of different technical schools, which I think getting the theory and also the hands-on experience is better than just going to a school as a theater major, unless you want to get specifically into theater. But I think a big part of it is getting your hands on the equipment and getting a solid background in principles like signal flow, gain structure, if you're doing audio, or the principles of lighting and video. And in the next few years, just going to school, getting that education, and applying at any of the major touring vendors, lighting companies, video companies, audio companies, you're almost guaranteed a job as long as you have some technical ability whatsoever. But if you wanted to work for a band as like a guitar tech or a drum tech or something like that, as long as you know how to do, how to fix guitars, how to tune guitars, how to tune drums, go to places where bands hang out, go to like rehearsal spaces like SIR and get a job. You want to be around the actual bands and the musicians because they're the people that you're going to be working for. So it's as much as having the skills as it is building that network and meeting the people who can potentially hire you.
Yes, definitely. Sydney, what is your take on for those that are coming into the industry now?
So I think honestly, my training was my experience. I think that I mean I did go to school, and I think that my program, I was in an entertainment and tourism program at Cal State Fullerton, which helped me tremendously on a knowledgeable background of the entertainment itself, industry itself. But me becoming an intern and really just you learn so many different roles. You may think you want to be a creative director, but then you may see, you know, a DP and then may want to follow their road, or a production manager, or like a content producer, like certain things. And I think that just really exposed me to the variety of different paths I could take. So I would say like get an internship and, you know, hopping in some freelance work. Like Michelle was saying, you know, it's in this industry, it is about the people that you do know that could help you land that position. And, you know, building those connections and your skills that you can always build your skills. I'm always still learning even now. So yeah, my best advice is to kind of just get in there, intern, get in where you fit in, and just kind of like ride the wave of just learning and getting that experience, because you're going to get the job as long as you have that.
Yes. Nicole?
I agree. So I think the industry is ever evolving. It's just like things are always changing. And I think it does depend on what you want to get into. Like Michelle said, if it's more technical, I think that does require a lot more training. You know, something like festival producing, I think you really just need to like intern or go maybe to a venue and ask if you can even just sit behind a board and just be a sponge and watch. Go be a stagehand, maybe a PA, a runner, start somewhere. And then networking is like, I know a lot of us have said it, it's like the most important thing you could really do, you know, is networking with the people at the venue. You know, they're always going to see how hard you work. I always tell, if you're just starting out, I always say like, no matter where you are, someone's always watching, right? So just always be on. Like, it's really important to just have a good attitude, be a sponge, be open to learning everything and anything you can. Because if you don't really know where you want to go, the industry is massive, and there's a lot of different facets and ways you can pivot around the industry of music and entertainment. So it could be really daunting and really overwhelming. So if you don't know what you want to do, start somewhere. And if you don't like it, okay, I don't really like that as much as I thought. Let's try this. You know, maybe I want to work for a label. Maybe I want to go into promoting or touring. There's so much to learn. So just, I say, be a sponge, start somewhere, intern somewhere, be a runner, a PA somewhere. And then from there, just kind of see what you like, what you don't, network. And, you know, hopefully that's a good way to start. And then you can kind of go up from there.
Yes, I like that. Being able to, if you don't know specifically where you want to go within this industry, the different approaches, figuring out what you do like, or rather figuring out what I don't like, and creating, I always say, to create your lane in this industry, so to speak, because there's so much and it's so vast within this industry. So I definitely agree with what you're saying, Nicole, as well. And Justin?
I really don't have to say anything. They really covered it all. As far as the technical side of it, like they said, you know, if there's something that you have an interest in, whether it's, you know, for me, you know, my lane would have been being a backline tech or a drum tech, because I can tune drums. You know, I know my way around instruments. So that would have been a great place for me to start. But on the other side of that, speaking of actual education, you know, places like Full Sail University and the Conservatory, if you're looking at an audio, actually I think, I know the Conservatory does audio, but I know Full Sail offers everything live production. But getting into a school like that, I know people talk that, you know, you don't really need the education, but it helps. And of course, more important than that is the hands-on experience, but starting with the base at, let's just say, the Conservatory, of learning the ins and outs of audio, whether it be live, studio, knowing the basics of it will help you when you get in front of that, in front of your tool, whatever that tool is. And then from there, you know, I grew up in church, so they made us learn how to work the audio console in my church. So all of us knew how to work it just in case something went wrong. We had to unmute a microphone, whatever the case may be. And that gave us the basics to know, what to do going further. On my side, the degree that I was in, that I was working towards, was organizational leadership. And at the time, it was kind of, this is just something I have to do. But a lot of what I was learning in that is applying now, because that's really what you're organizing and leading a group of people all around the world. So a lot of the tools that I learned in that, I definitely apply now. But again, as I said before, the hands-on experience, getting in the mud and getting in there is really what's going to push you forward. And I think somebody said also, learning everything. There's just so many different lanes in live production, in music in general. There's just so many different lanes that you can go down, and you just never know who you're going to cross that can open up a lane for you, open up a door for you to completely change what you're doing. You could go from being an audio lead and think that's what the rest of your life is going to be, and then 5 years down the line, you're running live production for Live Nation. You know what I mean? There's just so many different lanes and so many opportunities that are out here. And shout out to the women on this panel. I didn't realize I was on a panel with all women. So that's great to see, because it hasn't always been like that, to see so many women that are involved.
It's the intention.
Yes.
It's the intention. That was the point. That's the point of diversity, and to display these type of people that are in this industry. There are plenty of skilled women in this industry, and we are intended to show them and showcase them and hear from them.
Yes, thank you, Candace. Justin, what I'm hearing from you is definitely to establish a solid foundation within the industry. I also feel that with that, you have to focus on your support system as well. They are equally as important, especially from my vantage point, when it comes to establishing the foundation while getting into this business, because there is so much that is offered and so many different opportunities that you can have within live production. I would just also wanted to add that I did go to school. I went to Howard University. I majored in technical theater. But what I also did was I got into local venues. So being able to have that balance, it definitely worked for myself and other people that I know within the industry, colleagues and classmates of mine. So it's really good to hear these two different perspectives meeting in terms of traditional schooling or technical education, or letting the road and the world be your teacher in your classroom. So I really thank everyone for their perspectives on that. So now that we've talked about, ways to get into the industry, all of us, either tour managers, back of the house, front of the house, I want to specifically go to our front of house Lightland people as far as what are some of the main responsibilities for the front of house crews before and during the show. I wanted to start with Michelle as an audio engineer, but then I also want to elaborate more with Nicole and Justin, even Sydney, working for, mainly focusing on the venue and the show as a whole, and what you feel are some of the main responsibilities for front of house before, during the show, or from load in to load out. Michelle?
Okay, so my day typically starts at load in. Sometime in the morning, we empty the trucks, unload all of the equipment and set up the PA. I set up my soundboard and all of my gear. And once the PA is up and running, I basically EQ it for the room to work with the room acoustics, make any adjustments I need to it. While I'm doing that, the backline technicians are setting all the band instruments on stage, and then we mic and wire everything. And once everything is mic'd and wired, we do what's called a line check, where we'll run through each and every instrument on stage, to make sure that it's patched correctly, that there's no problems, and also to start dialing in the sound of that instrument, like getting the levels right, dialing in EQ. And then when that's done, we do a sound check with the band, where then we kind of focus on working on the mix. I'm working on the mix for the PA, and then there's a monitor engineer on stage who's working with the band to get the mixes that they need to hear in their monitors. Once sound check's over, it's wait for show time. We do the show. After the show's over, just immediately tear everything down, pack it back up, and put it in the trucks and drive to the next city and wake up and do it again.
In a nutshell, I'm realizing that I'm the other lighting designer, so I will give my input as far as for lighting when it comes to loading in. As Michelle said, we tip the truck or empty the trucks or trailers. And between loading in the equipment for the tour that I'm on now, I'm just traveling with a console as opposed to a floor package or more lights that we will be bringing in to enhance the rigs that the venues have. For myself, first thing is getting the console up and running. If it's using an MA on PC, it's getting the computers together as well as command wing and fader wing, if you have those. Patching the house fixtures into the console, working directly with the venue lighting designers just to make sure that that process goes seamlessly, seeing as they are most familiar with the house equipment. So it's really assisting and aiding us to make sure that what we have either programmed, time coded, or preset runs smoothly in the way that it is supposed to run. As Michelle said, then we get into sound check. During sound check is when we test the lights for specific songs, make sure that everything is going the way that it's supposed to, cues are being hit, lights and colors and everything is matching the way that it should be, programming positions, because those change from venue to venue. And once sound check is over, for myself, I set a house look, making sure that when I walk away and the next time I come back, everything is set and ready for the show. But really you're working and you're tweaking things through sound check, and even up until doors, if you need that extra time, it's there for you to be able to program and get the show ready. So I now want to see, Justin, as tour manager, how do you feel about the front of house process, and even for yourself for getting into show mode?
For me as a tour manager, the tour overall is my concern. Right up there at the front with that is the artist, of course, to make sure that they're good throughout the day or throughout the tour. But honestly, right behind that comes the front of house, because you all are basically in control of the experience that the fans get. You're doing the lighting, you're doing the audio, literally what they pay for, you're giving them by way of the artist. So it's really important. You guys already explained really how the day goes. From my side, it's just making sure that everything is flowing between the venue and the front of house team, and just the team overall. I know Michelle mentioned, she mixes front of house, but also, making sure that monitors is ready. In a perfect world, we have Michelle at front of house, and then we have an audio engineer at monitors. But it's not always that way, and sometimes they have to wear both hats. So working with Michelle to make sure that the artist is able to get a decent sound check, to get levels right, to get mixes right, whether they're on wedges, side fills, in-ears. Like I said, it's the most important. It's one of the most important parts of the show. I also forgot to mention video. I know a lot of times video is a big element that comes from front of house that sometimes gets forgotten, but that's a huge element of these shows and tours as well.
Yes, thank you. Nicole.
Sure. So I can definitely answer this from both an operations and a production perspective. Like, so for me, the responsibility kind of starts like 3 months before the show. Like, it's basically like, here's a big area of land, or you're in a stadium or something, and you have to create an event. So that's for me when like my head starts spinning and my show mode starts, right? So you're working with, it could be like a CAD designer to create a layout that flows with the venue or with the space that you're in. You're having to place everything, stages, food and beverage, merchandise booths, the parking flow, your gate entry, egress, ingress and egress, right? Where are you going to place your security mag? So it's like, this all starts like way before the event, obviously, right? So for me, that's kind of the main thing, is like getting the layout, sound with everyone on the team, because you're working with so many people within an event, from the production and the operations sides of things. So making sure that everything's sound, everything's flowing, there's no hazards, making sure that you have all of your compliance and everything is checked off, and then coming up to the event, it's really just advancing. So for me, I'm advancing everything with my vendors, whether I'm crewing, if I'm doing production, like in my last few roles, I was doing production. So it's making sure my event's crewed, making sure I have a crew chief who is, ready to go, making sure that all of my advances are out with my vendors, making sure there's no questions about anything, setting deadlines, managing budgets, right? So you're getting quotes with budget and making sure that during the show and during, pre to post production, everything's staying on track with budgeting and settlements. And then I feel like all the work, you do all this work, and then during the show, you're really there to put out fires. You're making sure load in, are your vendors on time? Are they happy? Do they have the resources they need to be set up for success? Is your, the producer, they need support? Does your team need support? So it's really starts like a long time before the event. And I feel like it's really important to like those first 2 or 3 months pre-show, it's like getting everything front of house ready. Aesthetically, whether it's, with the sound, like we've talked about, the operational flow, the stage builds, any load in timelines, budgeting, it's kind of all one. And then post show, you're really settling everything, load out, you're there to make sure your team has support, that your vendors, have a schedule. So usually the production manager or the site producer, you helps with the schedule of load in, load out. So making sure the trucking has, do they know where to park? Do they know where their entry is going to be? Just staying on time, because time is money in this business too, let's just say it. And so making sure we're sticking to our timeline. But that was a really long-winded answer, but it starts from like 3 months prior to like the week after, that's like on the house right there.
But that's real. And sometimes we forget the 2 months and 3 months prior to that. Also is developing front of house, like you said. Sydney, as a production manager for Live Nation, how do you feel the process of getting to front of house and getting to the show mode? How is that going?
Yeah, it's pretty similar to what Nicole was saying. So my role starts when it's greenlit to spend money. And if we're lucky, it'll be 3 months in advance, but sometimes it's 2 weeks. So I have to pretty much do all of that, like get our vendors, hire a crew, build out like a budget for pre-production and post-production. And then just making sure we have all those correct gear for G&E, for audio. We may have a set designer. So their budget could be an additional $15K, just for the props. And, just coming in with all of our camera and loading in, we want to load out our camera gear and our G&E gear first so they can start setting up, and then getting our PAs to help to do with like the crafty tables, knowing where parking is. If you've been to the Forum or any other venue, like bigger, SoFi Stadium or whatever, the parking can get a little crazy, knowing where like production is to come in and load out, and having the right credentials to do all of that. And then now with COVID, you have to have like a COVID officer, you have to have a set medic, you know. So all of that goes into one. And so I pretty much make sure we have all of those logistics ready to go for when we do have our shoot and our production and roll. And then, you know, making sure we do stay within that window, but a lot of times we don't. So calculating, you know, overtime for our crew, and yeah, she covered a lot of it. So that's pretty much my role, and just kind of just rolling out after that, just keeping track of our budget trackers and all of our receipts and sending it, coding and sending it accounting. So I do all of that too.
That is awesome. This panel is just great in all that everyone is doing. So we spoke about, you know, the process of getting to show mode and front of house, and Michelle and I briefly touched on sound checks and that really preparing us and getting everything right for the show. I wanted to ask everyone if you could speak on why sound checks and rehearsals, why they are so important to not only the artists, but the production teams as well. I want to start with Justin.
I mean, that kind of goes back to my last answer, honestly. I deal with a lot of rappers, and they just feel that sound check isn't important. And I try to drive home with them how important it is. It's really the time to set the stage. When we move from venue to venue, whether they're clubs, theaters, arenas, Michelle can attest to this. Sound is different in every room that you play in. You're not going to have the same room every day, no matter what package you bring in. So it's so important, even with just rappers that think they just have a microphone and wedges. Specifically with like my singers and my like background singers, bands, it's crucial. You can live and die by a sound check. If you don't have an adequate sound check time and take the time to do that to make sure everything is right, anything could go wrong during the show. And I've had situations where we didn't sound check, whether it was because schedule issues or the artist just not wanting to sound check, and it has shown. And I'm not an I told you so kind of person, but I am a look what happened after I told you a sound check person. So they are very, very important, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, yes, and I'll come back to Michelle.
Yeah, everything that Justin said, you know, it's kind of twofold. It's the artist's acclimation period to being in a new environment, a new venue. It could be a completely new PA system every day. It might be, even if it's the same equipment you're using every day, it's still a new environment. And so for the artist, it's their acclimation period to just getting used to how things sound in that environment, getting comfortable. And then for the audio crew, it's our chance to just, again, make sure everything works in the new venue. And also, if you're not carrying equipment with you and you're using the in-house soundboard and PA and gear every day, that's the only time that you get to actually dial in your show. You don't want to be dialing in your show as it's happening. You want it to be as good as it can be from the minute, you know, the first downbeat when the band hits the stage. So to give the audience the best show that you can, you want to take advantage of all that time that you have before doors open to really make sure everything is sounding as good as it can, and just, as you know, have the artist comfortable and everybody involved comfortable, because when they're comfortable, they can give you a better performance. When they don't have to think about, oh my God, I can't hear myself in my monitors, and now I'm not sure if I'm singing off key, you know, that just creates a whole level of stress that prevents them from giving their best performance. And that's what the whole point of the show is, that you just want to make sure that the artist is giving the best performance, the audience is giving, you know, a great reaction, because it all feeds off of each other. So it's just sound check is an important part of making sure all that happens.
And as well as not only sound check, but rehearsals, tour rehearsals as well. I can speak for the lighting side. Sound checks are definitely important. And now I'm in a new space working with time code, and rehearsals are crucial, especially when things are preset. You want to make sure that everything, all the kinks have been ironed out, everything is the way that it should be before we head out on the road. Michelle had mentioned having opportunities to learn at places like SIR. That was where we had our tour rehearsals. And it really, really helps. It really makes a difference, not only for us as the production staff, personnel, the crew, but also for the artists and their comfort level if they're trying something new. I want to briefly, get from Nicole and Sydney, just from your vantage points. I know you guys aren't as hands-on in terms of the technical side with front of house, but do you see the value within for having sound checks for the artists? Be it if you had a show without a sound check versus a show with a sound check, can you tell that difference?
Yes, because I've been the artist without a sound check. Because I have a band, I sing with a band, and I've been singing for a long, long time. Not great, especially when you have in-ears and you have a lot going on, and it just was not great. So yes to a sound check. The one thing I can say is this is why it's really important to have a good run of show and to be on a schedule. In my opinion, just like, connecting with even the stage manager or the production manager before and just making sure that there's some sort of schedule. Obviously it's different. Like a big festival with multiple artists is different than a concert with, maybe 2 openers and a headliner or something, right? So, but just making sure that if there can be a schedule where you can fit everybody into a sound check, because I know sometimes not everyone obviously gets a sound check. It might be just like a quick line change or something. It just depends on the show. But I think it's important for the artist to feel comfortable and confident going into their set, to just have the comfort knowing that everything's working the way that they want. Are the levels the way they want to hear them in their in-ears? Is everything set up the way they want it to be set up, right? Because I just think of it from an artist perspective. I don't want to give it like a half, show. I want to be able to be myself and give a good show, but that requires like feeling comfortable with just, with sound, and having my bandmates feel comfortable too with their sound. So yeah, I know that was a different perspective of it, but I think it's so important. It's vital.
No, it is. It is definitely that word. It is vital. And Sydney, any last add-ons?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's important. Sometimes I even have to build in a pre-light day just so we can, test it out. And hopefully we have budget for that. And I think that a lot of the times though, we do have artists and we may only have them for 8 hours. So we try to utilize, but within that time, if they're only going to perform 2 songs, like say if it's commercial, then we're going to utilize that time for us to like audio check and like kind of just tie up any loose ends as much as we can. But like everyone says, sometimes it's not possible and we kind of just go with the wind. But I pretty much have a really great crew that we've been working with for years. So we're able to put out fires as soon as they start up.
Awesomeness. Another firefighter. Like Justin was saying, another firefighter. So now we want to actually open the floor up to our audience, where I think we'll take 2 questions. We'll actually, Candace, can we bring up some questions?
Yes, I think we have one question from Skylar. Skylar, thanks for having your camera on. Go ahead and ask a question, please.
Yeah, for sure. First off, amazing panel from everybody. Appreciate you guys sharing your experience. It was amazing. I'm curious to know, like, when it comes to setting cues, like lighting and like video type of cues, is that usually somebody that's traveling with the artists who would kind of work in front of house to make sure that, you know, lighting cues and things are happening, or how does that work when with the choreographed show? How does that work when communicating those cues?
Yes, you can program, you can have the show programmed prior to and have it sent out. You can have a programmer who can also design the show, and then they can send that out on the road with a lighting director. That is the role that I am in now out with Moonchild. Since our show is time coded, I did have a designer and a programmer. And so, but on the road, I had to make those judgment calls as to, okay, what are we going to use if we don't have, you know, if the rig doesn't have every purpose and position that we may have, you know, drafted up in the visualizer or in our cues. So yeah, it's once you get into the house and you see what you are given, and then you're able to make the decision based off of what you know from the show, knowing the cues, the different moments within the show, the integral pieces of the show. So when it comes to drafting, you know, creating these cue lists and whatnot, they are preset. And so you are able to send that out. And that is what keeps the consistency of the show, since everything is already preset. And then you have the lighting director or even designer, if it can be all in one as well. I've also worked with designers who go out on the road and direct and opt their shows as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
No worries.
Thanks for your question, Skylar. I think Justin wanted to add something to that.
I just wanted to say how important these cues are. And it's great that you asked that question. And everything that she said, on top of all of that, practice. Because I'm not going to name him, but I have an LD out with me right now who has missed a couple of blackouts. And even after now we've had the show program, there's still some things happening. So practice and sound check. If it's time coded, run it during sound check and practice, because those blackout moments, those lighting moments are so important.
Yes, they are. Justin, I will add onto that as well. And, you know, in being humble and having humility, everything does not always go the way that you want it to go in every venue. And a piece of advice that I've gotten is to practice your failures, so that when these moments happen, you're prepared. You're able to know, okay, this is what I need to do in order to recover. This is what I need to do in case this happens. How do we adapt? Practice your failures. And I always say that you have to, essentially, you're failing forward. It is going to happen, especially when you're working with technology. Things are going to happen. However, you have to, it's all about how you recover. That is the key. So that's what I mean by failing forward. Learn from it so that it won't happen again. We have one more question from our audience.
Yes, and the question is from Shelby. Shelby, go ahead and ask your question, please.
Hi. So if you're on the track of tour manager, I kind of know like you all touched on it, like Justin touched on it. And I know you talked about being VIP and stuff, and like stagehand and shadowing. Is there any position that either any of you kind of like recommend starting, or just kind of just getting yourself in there?
I will throw that to Sydney.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so if you wanted to kind of become a tour manager or something of the sorts, getting into live music, is there a certain position that you recommend like starting at? I know we have mentioned like VIP or just a stagehand, or is it just kind of just getting into the live venue?
I think that if you're wanting to get closer with the artist, you know, and kind of just be on a team with them, I would say, but kind of just play both roles within like like for me, like corporate Live Nation and the artist and just representative, I would say creative producer we have, or like senior producer role that comes along with us, and it also connects with the artist prior, as well as being on production, just making sure that they're smooth. We're just handling everything smoothly from the production standpoint with the artist. And from a production manager, I also feel like it's a good role as well. Just kind of getting into that live event world and just pretty much, handling all of that's like set on. I hope that answers your question, but I definitely feel like senior creative producer and production manager will get you in the right field of wanting to just be in that live entertainment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I also want to add Nicole and Justin to your answer as well, Shelby. Nicole?
Yeah, sure. So I think for touring, like tour managing, it's obviously a lot of time on the road, which is a huge adjustment. It's a different type of lifestyle. So if you can even start out like as an assistant tour manager, or even doing merchandising, like with a band or an artist. There's touring event managers for, like Justin mentioned, VIP. There's companies that just do VIP touring and activations on the road for big artists. So, getting even as a rep, becoming a rep for like a VIP, the VIP portion of a tour as an event manager, or just connecting, with companies that do that. There's a few out there. Feel free to, reach out to me later too. I'm happy to, give you some recommendations, but I think touring is a different type of lifestyle. So making sure that it's something you really love, because it's, I know it sounds great, and then you get out there on, I've been on the road too. It can be hard, so starting out as like an assistant tour manager or merchandise manager, helping just even, if you want to, help with some crew, just help with the crew and be a little stagehand, here and there. That's always a good place to start too. And then of course, networking with, if bands come through or artists you want to work with or that you're interested in, just try and go to shows, talk to some of the crew if you can meet them, see how they got started, just show some interest. But that would be my advice for you.
I'll add on to that, but also freelance production assistant, like literally will do you so much justice, and just really getting your hands in there, like you said, stage hands, production assistant, you pretty much, they want you to do everything because they don't want to do it. So, well, not that they don't want to do it, but we just have so much other things that are going in our head. So you're very helpful in that way. And we'll have so many jobs coming up. So you can feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, and I can get you on freelance gigs with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, right now I currently work as assistant for a talent buyer. So I work on site at shows, like with the tour managers, between the tour managers and our clients. So I just kind of want to get more into that touring side rather than the middleman.
Got you. And to round this out, Justin, last final words or input for Shelby?
You keep picking me last, and they took all the good answers. But I agree with everything they said. Getting in with one of the VIP companies that send out reps on the road. I have 2 reps on this tour that I'm on right now, and one of them is a tour manager. She handles a lot of smaller bands, and she's just been asking questions and being a sponge to pick up as much information as she can. Somebody else said something else, production assistants. And then, like I said, my biggest thing when I started was I was a runner. And I just really paid attention. Being a runner, you're the first person you're gonna meet when the band comes in. They're gonna introduce you to the tour manager. And like I think Sydney just said, as a runner or even as a production assistant, you offload a lot of things for us that we have going on for the day. There's so much going on around us. Being able to pass those tasks on is a great learning process to get started.
Thank you. That was all very helpful. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you to all of our panelists. Looks about this time, we are going to wrap this up, but I wanted to just have a final plug for everyone and on our panel. Where can we find you? What is coming up next? It's final words. You can toot your own horn. It's encouraged for whatever you have coming up next. But where can we find each of you on this panel? Michelle?
You can find me at mixingmusiclive.com or on LinkedIn. And in the next few months, I'm going to be on tour with a band called Ghost Hounds and also Elvis Costello. And thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Nicole?
Yeah, definitely hit me up on LinkedIn. I do have a music website, so it's NicoleCarsonMusic.com that I check that email regularly. If you're interested in hearing some of my music, I have it in my Instagram. Nicole Rose Sings is my Instagram. But right now I have about, I think, 6 or 7 festivals in the pipeline for the year. So I'm busy festival life and busy with my music life. So nothing going on at all. Fun times, but yeah, please email me through my LinkedIn or message me.
Awesome. Sydney?
Hey guys, you guys can find me on LinkedIn, Sydney Ramos. We have a lot of stuff coming up as well. We just did something with Coachella, which actually you can find it on Google Pixel's account. Next week is week 2, or this week is week 2. We also are doing a few festivals, Shaky Knees, and we're doing like a venue partner series tour. So you guys will stay tuned for that.
Awesome. And Justin?
Sorry. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn under Justin Weatherspoon. As far as in the pipeline, a whole lot of stuff. Let me tell you something. If this is the industry that you want to get into, there is a lot of work out here. And it's just, you got to find it. It's definitely not going to come to you, but there is a lot of work out here. I have tours lined up to Christmas right now. It's a blessing. So get in here while the getting is good.
Awesome. Yes, there is a lot of work out here. And and I would just say for myself, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Noelle Soraya, or Noe.Soraya, Soraya. You can find me on LinkedIn as well under Noelle Soraya. And you can follow our podcast, What's Up Brody, at What's Up Brody as well. My email address is noelle@breedcreativity.com. And you can view her website as well, breedcreativity.com. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Candace and Live Out Live for having us, as well as Grammy U. I really appreciate this opportunity that we have been given, and really are opening ourselves up to the next generation, because we want to do nothing but see you thrive. The goal is for you to be better than us. So thank you again, Candace.
Absolutely. Thank you, Noelle. Thank you, panelists. This has been an honor to have you guys share your voice and just share your journey with us. As you all can see, all of our journeys are different. There are many different ways to get into this industry, and there are many opportunities here in the industry. So go for them. These are your future mentors. Please, you heard that networking in your network is what's going to get you to the next level. So this is some of you guys' first opportunity to network with some of these amazing industry executives, and they are on their way, and they are open to sharing and providing access and opportunity for you guys. So please utilize them best way you can. The very last thing, if you guys want Live Out Live to continue to provide this type of programming for you guys and partners with likes of the Grammy Museum, there is a survey in the chat. Please just click on it before you click out. It will take you less than 30 seconds to fill it in. Just want some feedback to see how you feel about these type of panels and programming, and if any of this was beneficial to you. Lastly, join us next week for our very last session on tour management, going on out on the road. We have some incredible panelists joining us as well, who will be sharing from their perspective. And I look forward to seeing you. Thank you, everyone. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Tyler. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you.